Program Manager of the Southern Climate Impacts Planning Program, with your briefing for Thursday, March 6, 2014. This information is brought to you by the Southern Climate Impacts Planning Program in association with NOAA, NIDIS, and the National Drought Mitigation Center. First, I wanted to let you know that as we move towards spring, we will be producing these briefings weekly instead of once a month, as drought conditions may begin to change more rapidly during the spring and summer months than they did during the winter. So what has changed over the past month? Heavy rains in late February and early March across California have helped to reduce the drought severity some. From February 26th to March 2nd, more than 75% of the season-to-date rainfall fell. However, totals were still 40% of normal for Burbank and 49% of normal for Los Angeles. Texas has seen some rainfall, especially across the southern and eastern parts of this state, but that has led to very minimal improvements as drought conditions across the state remain generally unchanged. Almost all of Oklahoma is now considered at least abnormally dry, which is D0. And then for this upcoming weekend, some rain and warmer temps are expected across the southern plains before dry and cooler conditions return. And then also I want to discuss the possibility of El Nino as we head into the summer and fall. This is the newest drought monitor released today, Thursday, March 6th. It is mostly unchanged from last month with the exception of expansion of D2 to D4 conditions across the west. Zooming in a little closer, we see little change in drought conditions across the high plains. Across the southern plains, there's been expansion of the D0 and D1 conditions, especially across Oklahoma, where 99% of the state is now in at least D0. 31% of the winter wheat crop in Oklahoma is in very poor to poor conditions, which is actually an increase from last month, which was 24%. Recent precipitation has brought limited improvements across Texas, as all the drought categories have increased since last month, and 52% of Texas's rangeland and pastures were rated as very poor or poor. And then across the west, as I mentioned, drought conditions remain fairly unchanged with just some expansion of the D2 and D4 conditions, especially across California. Rainfall departures over the last 14 days show the recent rainfall, especially in California, as well as the rainfall across southern and eastern Texas, actually across the whole Gulf Coast. But as you go beyond 14 days, the larger precipitation deficits that we've been seeing becomes more apparent. The 5-day outlook shows the possibility of precipitation across parts of the southern plains, especially Oklahoma and then southern Texas through the Gulf Coast. Temperatures are expected to be above normal for the next 5 days, most places except southern Texas and the Great Lakes. The 8 to 14 day temperature outlook and precipitation outlook, valid Friday, March 14th to Thursday, March 20th, indicate above normal temperatures are expected across the west coast, with below normal temperatures expected across much of the eastern half of the United States. The southwest and parts of Texas have the potential for being wetter than normal, whereas the west coast and much of the plains, Midwest, and southeast are expected to be drier than normal. The CPC 3-month outlooks, which were updated February 20th, and they're valid for the 3-month period of March, April, and May, show the west and south experiencing above normal temperatures, with only parts of the Great Lakes expected to be cooler than normal. Near normal precipitation conditions prevail across much of the United States, with the exception of drier than normal conditions possible across California and the Gulf Coast, and a small area of wetter than normal conditions across portions of the Tennessee Valley. So now for the fun stuff. The Climate Prediction Center, CPC, has issued an El Nino watch, which means there is at least a 50% chance of seeing El Nino conditions develop in the equatorial Pacific during the summer and fall. For the Southern Plains region, El Nino conditions typically mean cooler and wetter than normal, especially the further south you go. These conditions would occur in the late fall through winter, so not right now or not really anytime soon. These are just two images that display the same information regarding El Nino. The probability of El Nino conditions actually developing. The bottom image shows percentages corresponding to a 3-month interval. So you can see the start of the 50% probability of El Nino developing corresponds to August, September, and October of this year. And then the percentages just increase for the next 2-3-month periods. And then the top graph just shows a graphical representation of the same percentages, with the red bar being indicative of El Nino. So, as we continue into spring and on into summer, we will be keeping a watch for El Nino and see if El Nino begins to develop or if we return to ENSO neutral conditions. The monthly drought outlook, which was issued February 28th and valid for the month of March, shows mainly persistence across the drought-stricken areas of the U.S., with a few places along the West Coast still remaining in drought, but possibly seeing some minimal improvement. As always, please join us for these briefings and full topic webinars. For more information, please visit our SCIP website, southernclimate.org, to register for more information if you haven't already. These briefings will be posted to the SCIP YouTube channel as well as our website. You can like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter at skip_RISA for more information. We thank you for joining us and have a great week.